Officials in Conway providing updates on that deadly shooting Sunday night, what we're learning. And El Salvador's leader speaks about the man mistakenly deported to his country from the U.S. We'll have the latest from the White House.
Covering news where you live. This is 5 News at Noon.
Thanks for joining us for your 5 News at Noon. I'm in for Morgan Wrigley today. Kayla Davis here with Stephen Elmore. Stephen, the weather has been kind of amazing the last couple of days. Thank God. I was so sick of the cold, but it might not last for a little bit.
Yeah, it was definitely warmer yesterday than what it's like for today. Still, though, plenty of sunshine for our Tuesday afternoon. Really not too bad. Now, over the next couple of days, warmer but very windy outside. Of course, it's going to take us to Easter weekend, where those rain chances will be increasing. Here's a look at what we're tracking over the next several days. Again, very comfortable for today still. Don't want to get it wrong. I mean, by all means, still a very nice day today, but just yesterday was much warmer outside. Now, over the next couple of days, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we're going to get warmer once again, back up into those 70s and even into the 80s, but it's going to be very windy outside. We're talking about those wind gusts in excess of around 30 miles per hour. That's going to carry us into Easter weekend. Rain chances and thunderstorm chances are picking up, specifically Friday night going into Saturday, and then again sometime Sunday afternoon going into the evening hours is that latest timeline as of right now. Current temperatures out there this afternoon, really not too bad, 50s and 60s, but again, yesterday was much warmer. So after that cold front, it feels a little bit on the cooler side going into this afternoon. About 10 to 20 degree difference across northwest Arkansas and the River Valley this afternoon from where we were yesterday. That cold front, while it remained dry, just brought in that cooler air for our Tuesday afternoon. Northwest Arkansas, the rest of the day today, daytime highs eventually reaching up into those mid-60s. So we got a little bit of work to do before we reach those daytime highs. Plenty of sunshine all day long, though, in this evening. If you're going out for that walk, might need a light jacket outside. Across the River Valley, we'll reach those daytime highs into those low 70s for us today. Plenty of sunshine. And again, tomorrow and over the next several days, we're going to get that warmth right back in, but it is going to be very windy over the next several days. We'll talk about that, plus your Easter weekend forecast coming up in just a bit.
All right, thanks, Stephen. Officials in Conway gave an update on the deadly shooting during a large party at Conway's 5th Avenue Park Sunday night. The city's mayor and police held a press conference just a bit ago. 2 people died and 9 others were injured with gunshot wounds in the shooting at the 5th Avenue Park Sunday night. We're now learning that 24-year-old Tatiana Pinister from England, Arkansas, and 23-year-old Demetrius Feemster, the second from Little Rock, were killed in the shooting. Police confirming that at least 6 different weapons were used and that around 100 rounds were fired. The Conway police chief says that the Eastern District U.S. Marshals will continue to follow up on any leads to find the suspect or suspects.
For those of you who are responsible for this, I can tell you that this morning and every day since, that Ms. Cruz, the Conway Police Department, local, federal, and state authorities have been meeting around the clock, and they're in a meeting right now. So I promise you the heat is on you, and they are coming for you, and you will pay for this.
The Conway Police Department will continue their investigation, and we're going to bring you the latest updates on air and online as we get more information. Arkansans are coming together to help a Rogers family mourning the loss of their young son. A GoFundMe is set up for the family of 11-year-old Maddox White, who died Sunday evening. There are limited details being released about the accident that caused his death, but Corporal Don Lisi told 5 News that Maddox had stepped out of a moving SUV, ran alongside it, and fell. The rear passenger side of the Ford then ran him over. The GoFundMe has nearly raised the $8,000 goal set to help his family, and on the site he's remembered fondly and described as an avid basketball player and a funny jokester who was a lovable kid. Today, it's back to square one after the Fayetteville City Council formally voted against a new housing development on Dixon Street. This is something 5 News has been following closely for months now. Efforts are being made to put up a 185-unit housing development across from the Collier drugstore and the U.S. Post Office. But back in February, councilors determined a traffic study needed to be done first. Well, yesterday, the results of that study were shared with the Planning Commission. The study found traffic would be an issue, leading councilors to ultimately deny the development from being constructed on Dixon Street. And a hearing is scheduled for this afternoon for the Maryland man mistakenly deported to El Salvador. The Trump administration and El Salvador's president signaled they do not plan to take any action, despite a Supreme Court order to facilitate his return to the U.S. Natalie Brand has more details from the White House.
Ahead of his Oval Office meeting with El Salvador's president, a camera caught President Trump discussing sending U.S. citizens who commit violent crimes to El Salvador.
Homegrown's are next. The homegrown's built. You got to build about 5 more places. Yeah, that's big. All right. It's not big enough.
Later, in front of a larger group of reporters, the president said his attorney general was looking into the idea.
I'm talking about really bad people. Really bad people. Every bit as bad as the ones coming in.
Former federal judge John Jones says deporting Americans is unconstitutional, pointing to the 8th Amendment, which prohibits cruel and unusual punishments.
Not only chilling, but it's also not going to be legal.
The administration is also facing an intensifying legal fight to return a Maryland resident after admitting an administrative error prompted Kilmar Abrego Garcia's deportation to El Salvador last month. A judge ruled in 2019 he could not be returned to his home country for fear of persecution. But the Trump administration alleges he's an MS-13 gang member, something his family and attorney dispute.
When President Trump declared MS-13 to be a foreign terrorist organization, that meant that he was no longer eligible for any form of immigration relief in the United States.
Last week, the Supreme Court ruled the administration should facilitate Abrego Garcia's return, with Justice Sonia Sotomayor raising concerns about due process. Attorney General Pam Bondi says it's up to El Salvador. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
Meanwhile, overnight, the Trump administration said it's freezing over $2 billion of federal funding to Harvard University. This move comes after the school rejected demands for policy changes, including an end to DEI programs and reforms to international admissions. The university argues this is a tactic by the Trump administration to force the school to comply with broader demands.
The Trump administration is trying to make an example of the wealthy selective institutions, trying to get them to completely overhaul the way they do everything.
Harvard says its independence and constitutional rights are non-negotiable, despite the administration's push for reforms. The university remains committed to combating anti-Semitism, but insists cutting funding won't help. Well, parts of Southern California are cleaning up after a 5.2 magnitude earthquake. Now there's concerns about possible aftershocks. Derek Waller has the dramatic video showing the moment the quake hit.
The cat felt it first. Then Ashley Pinnock grabs her baby Michael and bolts outside.
We have a large beam that runs through the center of our house, and I heard a cracking noise. And so my first instinct was to get out because I didn't want to be underneath that beam.
Quick thinking from residents in San Diego County, California, after that 5.2 magnitude quake rocked neighborhoods Monday morning.
We felt the whole house start to shake, and we ran into the driveway because the house was shaking so bad we didn't know if it would be safe even in the doorway.
Security cameras captured elephants on alert at the San Diego Zoo. The quake startling dogs inside this home and even waking up this baby. The tremor also knocked bottles off the wall at this liquor store in Julian.
It was like a 2 minutes. I went to go hit the restroom and whatnot, and like instantaneously, like just the aggressive shaking, and I started hearing all like the popping of the bottles hitting the ground.
Now possible aftershocks, and seismologist Lucy Jones says there is a small chance of an even bigger quake to follow.
19 out of 20 times what you're seeing is the biggest one. 1 out of 20 times it's followed by something bigger.
Today we had the most damage that we've ever had, but none of the staff was hurt, and they handled it quite well.
Neighbors left with damage to clean up, but thankfully it wasn't worse. Derek Waller, CBS News.
A 3.3 magnitude foreshock hit the area on Sunday. Residents are now urged to check for structural damage like cracks in foundations and to be thorough in their inspections. While in Oklahoma City, they're preparing to mark 30 years since the bombing of the Murrah Federal Building. The attack killed 168 people and hurt almost 800 on April 19, 1995. The deadliest act of domestic terrorism in the history of the United States. The city holds a ceremony every year on the date, and this year, former President Bill Clinton, who was in office at the time of the attack, is scheduled to be this Saturday's keynote speaker. The ceremony will also include 168 moments of silence for each victim who lost their lives. Today also marks the 113th anniversary of the day the Titanic sank in the North Atlantic, taking with it over 1,500 lives. The liner struck an iceberg and the ship sank in the early hours of April 15th. For more than 70 years, the wreck of the Titanic lay undisturbed on the ocean floor. Then in 1985, advances in deep-sea technology led to its discovery by a Franco-American expedition. Well, today's the deadline for most U.S. taxpayers to file their federal taxes, unless you live in one of more than a dozen states where the IRS has extended that deadline. People in states like Arkansas, Tennessee, North Carolina, and Los Angeles County in California were granted a later deadline due to natural disasters in recent months. All taxpayers can request an extension from the IRS, which would give them until mid-October to file. It's been delayed for years, but the Real ID deadline is finally here. You've got just 3 weeks left to update your license or risk revoked access into federal buildings. With the deadline approaching, DMV offices nationwide are seeing a last-minute rush. More than 19 million have been issued, but that's still only half of all drivers. Without one, you won't be able to fly domestically or access federal buildings, as we mentioned. DMV offices are opening early, but your fastest bet is applying online and booking an appointment.